verdades de caminos. Therefore, you must always keep in mind that a path is only a path. To have such clarity, you must lead a disciplined life. Only then will you know that any path is only a path.
I'm a warrior from the future, looking at the past, living each moment through life's hourglass. I hold on to nothing, but enjoy everything. I spiral in and out of the Milky Way sacred ring. I carry the blood of my Tata Pancho Villa, y con mi corazón, sueño noche y día. I fly with the eagles and roam with buffaloes. I ride the winds of time, shoot thunderbolt arrows. Aim them at your heart with a masterpiece of art. Look into your mirror, that's where it all starts. The pain of generations is deep within my soul. I burn my white sage and my abalone bowl, and I bless myself, send my prayer to the sky. I never ask why, I never complain. The way of a warrior is to always stay sane. Do away with fear so your mind stays clear. Then you deal with power, but treat her like a flower. Her poison will devour and eat up all your soul. 6 feet deep, buried in a hole. Your ego got too high and you lost control. And if you don't die from your own greed, that's when age and time starts to feed. No one can escape man's true fate. No one has the power to tell death to wait.
Both paths lead nowhere. The one's a heart, the other doesn't. One makes for a joyful journey as long as you follow it. You're one with it. The other will make you curse your life. One makes you strong, the other weakens you.
Yo, LA Natives Podcast.
LA Natives.
Las Aslan Natives Podcast. What's going on, people?
How we doing, gente?
What's going on?
Las
Good evening.
Aslan. How we doing? Is the family out there?
They're coming in.
Coming in. Right on.
Here we go. We got Big D in the building.
Sweet.
We got
What's
3
going on,
Pac.
Big D,
What's
3
cracking
Pac?
lacking?
Appreciate y'all for tuning in first. Much love. The native kids. What's going on?
Yeah, the first 3. We should take a picture of that. And then if you live in Los Angeles, come by Malinali and you'll get a free smoothie.
Make sure you guys scan that QR code right on the screen. Let's support Zero. Cop his mixtape on Bandcamp if you haven't already. It's a dope project.
Yeah, I'm trying to raise money to put out my new single. And I'm, unfortunately right now the restaurant's, doing what it needs to do, but for extracurricular things, so I'm trying to raise money. So if you're trying to support, we're gonna put some new designs out for shirts and things of that nature, and then we're gonna try to put out this new single called Global Pandemic, which I've been trying to put out for a while, but unfortunately, investing in art is a little bit harder now. Mm-hmm. But if you can support, we have a donation button. We have you can go to our Bandcamp and purchase music. When you purchase a song, it's not like you're gonna play it in a CD or you're gonna collect it. It's really you're supporting the blog. You're supporting Ellie. You're supporting Las Aslan podcast, and you let our vision get a little bit stronger, because you're supporting us. And basically, what we're gonna do with the resources is reinvested into our community events, our podcast, and our giveaways. So, it just allows us to do it. But when we have to go into our own personal money to do that for the community, I mean, believe me, I know I did it for 20 years. And at one point, the well runs dry. But there's creativity, and that creativity comes with, collective thinking and understanding what you're donating to and what you're purchasing. So we're trying to put out this new single called Global Pandemic. We need a lyric video, we need a music video, and we need to master and mix it. And I'm kind of in debt right now for that, but we'll figure that out.
You know what? Some music videos are long overdue, right, Zero?
Absolutely.
And when we do release them, they're going to be fucking dope.
Well, I mean, I have 3 songs that are done. I just have to record them. And then I also want to go in a different direction because, I don't want to just be known as a person that just raps on beats. So I have a lot of musician friends, and the new projects that I have in mind and that I already talked to musicians about, now that the restaurant's doing what it needs to do and I have a little bit more time, Sky helps me there. Thank you.
Yes.
He that's the way he contributes to the vision. You know, I get a little time to put these things in order for our community. You know, that's basically what we're doing, man. We're trying to awaken our community with love and compassion, understanding, patience. We need all those things for ourselves. And what we do at Malinali Superfoods at 4528 Whittier Boulevard is just that. All the collective and creatives and people who just want a different reality without harming anyone.
It's just a new perspective.
I mean, at one point, we're going to get tired of going to war. War doesn't last forever. At one point, diplomacy and respect for one another, even
Respect
though
for
there's
oneself. Too.
even though you have differences, we have to get to that point as a human family.
I'm sure you guys noticed I'm fiddling around with the new updates we have on Restream. They're pretty dope. Just trying to get ourselves situated as we're live at the same time. This is nice.
Yeah, man,
Let's
we're
change
missing
up the
Daniel.
logo.
I don't know what happened. He didn't call me or text me, but hopefully Daniel's okay. We're saying a prayer out for Daniel, everybody in the Las Taslan universe or Teocalli, our sacred house. You know, we'll say a prayer out for Daniel because he didn't communicate. So hopefully he's okay. I'm sure he's okay. It's just weird that he didn't call me or text me. He likes doing this podcast. But, you know, I had some reflections this week and wanted to bring up a few things. And then some people sent me some things that we really just need to discuss, you know.
Well, this is going down right now, guys.
Apparent gunfire sounds out of Rafah today, heard over the border in Egypt. They're amid an Israeli military operation that left multiple people dead, according to Palestinian civil defense. It comes hours after Israel urged people to evacuate certain areas. It also follows celebrations over Hamas's agreement to a ceasefire and prisoner exchange.
There is a new open door for possibility.
A document obtained by CNN indicates the deal includes a, quote, period of sustainable calm. Protesters in Israel are urging their leaders...
Zero, it's a trip how things are really going down overseas, but over here in the West Coast, people are just so obsessed with the whole Kendrick Lamar and the Drake shit. It's such a huge distraction, bro.
Wow. Yeah, no, that's
It's like,
a good
it's
that's a
like we
good one.
live in fucking Disneyland over here.
Yeah.
You know, I just want to put things in perspective, though. When they talk about like ceasefire and when they get to points where they made a peace agreement, in my eyes, in my view,
Like this piece of shit right here, right?
I mean, I don't like to come aggressive with people, but I know there's a lot of emotion behind what's happening here. You know, children are dying, man. I seen this crazy video. I felt like that was going to be my music video. Is, you know, for global pandemic, is seeing this little child, this little, you know, infant just shaking because the nervous system has gone whack. You know, that's not something that you just kind of just ignore. If you do, then you got to question what's making you ignore that, because that's not something that, and even though it's so far away, I mean, I understand that it's so far away, but when you see that type of suffering happening right now in this day and age, when they said they eradicated those type of people, right? Never again, right? Never again. What does that mean? That means never again for everybody on the globe. But now, you know, when you believe in slogans of that nature, or when you believe in leadership that doesn't tell you the truth, but only just manipulates your perspective to kind of guide their narrative, right? Because really, at the end of the day, when they say ceasefire and all that, that means they killed enough people out of the way so that they can just bulldoze the rest and build whatever they need to build and do whatever they need to do. You know, it's not about anti-anything. You know, I'm trying not to say names because this is not about that. I think we get caught up in the name of things.
It becomes political.
Right.
Right, where we have to feel like we have to choose a side.
It's not a team. It's not.
And we see all this through the mainstream media. Like whatever happened to the stories of children being buried under these churches.
Right. Right.
They made their money off of it, and now it's like so irrelevant. It's not even funny.
Right. Right. And now, but it'll always be that way with the media. But I think, look, and this is just my perspective, the way I see things. You know, I don't see things in the way I see things like, oh wow, look at that interesting battle between Kendrick Lamar and Drake. It's interesting, huh? But what's behind that? You know, there's a layer behind that. What is that? And then there's a layer behind that. And when you see the layer behind that, that's when you start to see the big picture evolve, right? I was in the morning talking to Aurelio, one of the partners at Tacos and Karma. Shout out Aurelio. And I was saying, man, it's crazy how technology has gone to a point where they can destroy a person almost in seconds. You know, with the right material reposted and the right technology, you can pretty much laser point something at someone and boom, let it go, right? And then the algorithms will pick it up. And it's almost like back in the day, COINTELPRO had to infiltrate a community, create rumors, and that took time, resources, and put you in danger. Nowadays, man, look at Drake. I'm interested to see if he's gonna recover from this. Like, did they take away everything instantly? Did this dude take away everything instantly due to the technology? And what I mean by that is other people are making reports, independent reports. People that are just regular citizens are, oh, let me break this down for you, and let me tell you, and let me do this, and let me do that, and this is what I found out, and you see this just, the thought that came into my head was the movie The Matrix. Remember the viruses? Mm-hmm. Remember they would turn into these like crazy little animal-like things, and they would attack one thing if they were all sent to this one area or for this one thing, right? Because everyone's plugged in through the head, right? Yep. Which is modern day phone or computer. That's how you plug in. And metaphorically in the movie, they literally plugged in. But to me, the viruses were these independent individuals who have large influence, and they do their mini reports on things, and they spread the information, and so all these viruses collectively come together to destroy whatever that is. That takes technology. And to test that technology, wouldn't you want to see it? Like if we look in, okay, the surface layer is Drake and Kendrick Lamar. You know, the other layer is the text and how this technology works. Does it work? Can we pinpoint it at someone? What is the reaction of everything and everyone? Can the servers handle this amount of thing? I've never heard of this. 4 hours, 4 million plays or views or whatever on YouTube for Kendrick Lamar's thing. That's a lot of energy, a lot of technology that needs to work for this to work. Right?
Yeah.
And the narrative between both of them was very, very clear on what they were going to do to destroy a person.
So the homie 3 Pac says nothing in the mainstream is by accident. It's all planned.
Absolutely.
It's controlled chaos.
Absolutely. And you got to see the layers. You're right, 100%. Was that 3 Pac?
Yep.
Yeah, shout out 3 Pac. You know? It's like you got to see the layers behind the layers. The surface between them two, that's irrelevant. What's the layer behind it? You know? How these, it was just weird to scroll and like almost everyone.
Every other thing is related. When you're scrolling on social media, every other seems like post is related to that.
Right. Like, oh, I'm going to do my post about it. And some posts were even just a person that doesn't even do research and doesn't have no influence. Maybe it's just a person that just feels like they have an opinion on it. But that adds to those tiny little viruses in the matrix that are going to attack one certain thing or area. it's interesting how that technology is starting to work. That's the layer I saw within the battle of rapping or whatever that was, because I didn't feel like that was it was something different. It was something different behind that.
This is what we're planning on pulling up, guys. I want to start this from the beginning.
Yeah, I found this.
They still exist.
Where?
The Vatican.
How do we know that?
Because there have been whistleblowers that have talked about what's
Yeah, listen. This is an interesting little video right here, dude. I'm gonna try to play this from the beginning, guys.
as well as ancient Sumerian tablets. When archaeologists and researchers look into when they conquered that region and then when they brought everything back, they discussed how
Here we go.
and the Aztec. There's been estimates today by some researchers who have studied that we've lost 90+% of everything ancient in terms of writings and artifacts and describing their story from that region. They literally stole or burned everything. Do you know where they are? They still exist.
Where?
The Vatican.
How do we know that?
Because there have been whistleblowers that have talked about what's down there. I'm not going to name any names. Let's just say the library has an entire collection of Maya, Aztec, Egyptian, as well as ancient Sumerian tablets. When archaeologists and researchers look into when they conquered that region and then when they brought everything back, they discussed how it went back to Spain first.
How do we know that it ended up at the Vatican?
Because the Vatican was the head of the Catholic Church. The Vatican is the powerhouse behind why they went and conquered the Americas. Because Spain was an empire.
Okay, yeah, that's the question I have. Like, how do we know it's still in the Vatican? You know, it makes sense though, right?
The Vatican has a 7-mile underground library. It's 7 miles. You know, and that's the one that we know of. Who knows how far, how much information has been hoarded, right? They also use a lot of techniques that we used in our time, right? Because when you talk about the Aztec and Mayan people and the Toltec people and the Olmec people, we were sun worshipers. And if you look at the Catholic rituals, they're sun worshipers as well, but they just do it in their way. We did it through the observations of nature. This is how we calculated, painted, added, and they did it for greed. We're not going to tell. We're going to do the ritual, but we're not going to let everyone know what the real meaning behind it is. So you're in the crowd going, "Yeah, I'm doing this," but they're doing something different. And if you don't know about it, if you're not in the club, then you don't even know about it. They don't want everybody to know about it. Where I feel in our culture, none of that stuff was hidden. It was really, do you have the discipline to achieve it? You know, because when you're asking to be a certain symbol or certain energy, you do your best to try to achieve everything that symbol and energy carries. You can't be just, oh, I magically have it. No, that's not the way it works with us. It works like you have it, but are you going to work towards making it yours? And that takes discipline, and it takes persistence. That's what I mean when you control your diet, when you're able to become a strong individual to contribute to the community, mental health-wise, body-wise, everything of your body. When you work with the community, you have to have the best intentions in your mind. So you have to have very large amounts of discipline. It's not easy, and people fall and people make mistakes. So, you know, just keep that in mind, because we're all just really trying to get to a place where things make sense, you know? And so in this particular clip, you know, that they sent me, shout out to Vicky from Plant Based Aslan. She sent me this post, and the last there's a politician talking about the protesters in the colleges. Watch, if you scroll, can you scroll to the video part of that post? One more. This guy. That guy. Watch. Click one more.
The little Gazas that have risen up on campuses across America, and the liberal college administrators and politicians who refuse to restore law and order and to protect other students. These little Gazas are disgusting cesspools of anti-Semitic hate, full of pro-Hamas sympathizers, fanatics, and freaks. The terrorist sympathizers in these little Gazas aren't peacefully protesting Israel's conduct of war. They're violently and illegally demanding death for Israel, just like their ideological twins, the Ayatollahs in Iran. We're here to discuss the little Gazas that have risen up on campuses across America, and the liberal college administrators and politicians.
That is nuts.
That is way more psychological seed planting than anything.
It's propaganda. That's what it is.
You know, So, I was talking how the Kendrick Lamar and the Drake thing, you know, how viral it got and how everybody's talking about it, and that's using the technology at hand. And at one point I was like, you know, these guys, like back in the Nazi time, they used the technology available to spread the word of whatever their agenda was. And at the time, it was theaters, movies.
Yep, radio,
movies. And so you can only go so far with those things because, one, you have to have money to go into the show. It's not meant for poor people. Like, only certain people knew about it. So it was kind of a technology that was kind of limited. This technology, everybody having a cell phone in their hand, that's different. That's a different technology. Now, if they were able to do whatever they could for advancing that ideology through the movies, through the beginning of a movie, like a commercial, a little short in front of the main feature, what could they do with things that are real time? And that's what I saw with the battle between Drake and Kendrick Lamar, is the on the real time destruction of personality, a celebrity. I mean, they can use that against a politician. They can use that against an activist. They can use that against anything. So just be aware, because sometimes this technology sweeps you into it. Like, I gotta admit, I got caught up in that a little bit, you know, just a little bit. And then I started realizing, whoa, it's getting me, it's catching me, you know? And so if you're not aware of those things, you'll figure out, like there was 40-year-old white women posting about this, right? And they're like, oh, what do I know? I'm a white girl. You know, it's like, damn, it's not coincidental. You know what I mean? Like, that has a specific agenda behind it. We just got to be aware of it. You know, but to go back to the Vatican library, and the hiding of our sacred books.
Yo, this is the first time ever I've seen rappers on the mainstream caliber level that are just getting covered by every major news organization, like as if it's like the realest beef of all.
Why do you think?
And I'm just, you have to just peel back those layers and be like, damn, dude, this is.
Why do you think that is, though? How does it get to the point where you have the news talking about it? Like, it's not that important for news time to be taken up by this. But now we're looking and talking about this, and then we start off the podcast with what? Major bombing in fucking
Gaza.
In Gaza.
And Rafah right now.
Right? Major bombing, and then you have politicians calling
protesters terrorists.
Protesters anti-Israel. One, they're not anti. I didn't even, oh my God, I can't believe I said that. But no one's anti anything, any country, any religion. No one's anti any. And I'm stating that for Las Aslan right now. Don't confuse what we're trying to dissect and critically think about as something anti anything.
For everyone watching, join us in the chat. Do you guys care about the Kendrick and Lamar beef? Is that something that tickles your guys' feathers? Let us know.
over the destruction of a people in real time when we said never again. That doesn't make sense. It's the distractions. What are they using to distract us from these very important topics, right? And to have a politician come and say, these little Gazas spreading, that already goes, okay, cool. If I'm a law enforcement individual that lives around the campuses, I'm thinking, like, oh, okay, cool. These are terrorists. He's not educated enough to do the research, or he's not even connected enough to control his emotions. He's just going to write off what that politician said.
I love what I see, guys. Everyone's like, nope, nah, who? Not at all. Not in the slightest interest.
Exactly. It's hard not to even, run into someone talking about it or whatever, but there was a lot more behind that. That was a pretty big onion, and you had to just like peel back the layers and kind of really sit back and digest what's going on. What is happening, And and so that's what they're using their technology to see if it works. Is this being effective? How effective is it going to be? When it comes to these certain things. I mean, it works against them as well because those politicians they get caught saying these little Gazas and these little anti-anythings. These are just people, young individuals with a human heart who are asking for human rights for individuals who are being starved to death and being bombed and then being called, supporters of individuals that have bad agendas and evil agendas,
Yeah, but that's what he's going to go up there to do. He's going to go up there and that politician is going to throw these trigger words and go up there with this almost like a script to use these words that are going to trigger people, terrorists, anti-this, anti-that, words that are going to
Can you play that one more
some
time,
type of emotion.
Armando? Do you think you could pull that up one more time? The politician talking about little Gazas in the...
We're here to discuss
Right there.
the
Now, wait, before you play it, I want people to do an exercise, and this is an exercise in critical thinking. Look at his body language. Pay attention to his body language.
little Gazas that have risen up on campuses across America, and the liberal college administrators and politicians who refuse to restore law and order and to protect other students. These little Gazas are disgusting cesspools of anti-Semitic hate, full of pro-Hamas sympathizers, fanatics, and freaks. The terrorist sympathizers in these little Gazas aren't peacefully protesting Israel's conduct of the war. They're violently and illegally demanding death for Israel, just like their ideological twins, the Ayatollahs in Iran. We're here to discuss the little Gazas that have risen up on campuses across America.
Notice the amount
and the
of
liberal college
arrogance,
administrators and politicians
arrogance
who
in
refuse
this
to restore
guy's
law and order and to protect other students.
attitude and voice.
These little Gazas are disgusting cesspools of anti-Semitic hate, full of pro-Hamas sympathizers, fanatics, and freaks. The terrorist sympathizers in these little Gazas aren't peacefully protesting Israel's conduct of the war. They're violently and illegally.
So imagine a law enforcement officer who's being asked to remove these individuals. He's not going to go in there with compassion. He's going to go in there with force because they've already planted a seed that these are terrorists, right? But these people are thousands of miles away from doing anything in any land. But they want to plant those seeds that they are there. They're transplanted humans who came from this area of Mother Tonantzin, right? And now they're here in every single college. And that's not true. The fact that he was trying to point out that we were sympathizers with terrorists, like who sympathizes with any terrorist? I don't understand that language. What does that mean? Like, I'm going to sympathize with the terrorist? No one would do that. But they suggest it, and then we automatically believe it. just because he comes off with his little tie and he has his little attitude and he feels like he's intellectually superior. That clip is the prime example of white supremacy. If you want to see white supremacy without its, Ku Klux Klan uniform, that's it right there. Right? No compassion, no empathy, complete dominance, right? Controlling the narrative. That person had no heart. And this is what this modern day governments, controlling entities are trying to control. Can they control the way you feel and manipulate you without you knowing? This guy, in his mind, he goes, these guys are uneducated. I'm going to show them with my intellectual, probably forced to write a speech to point out people who are just wanting the suffering to end. I think that's what those protesters are asking for. A suffering to end. Not the end of a political system, religion, or race. That's not what it's doing. It's asking for the suffering to end. Can we stop seeing little children in pieces? Can we stop seeing little 5-year-olds uncontrollably shaking because they're so traumatized by the bombs? Can we stop that? Because I don't know if when someone says that, they're saying anti anything. They're just asking for the human suffering to end. Are they doing it the best in the most intellectual way? Probably not. There's a lot of emotion there. There's a lot of sides, right? What side are you on? And no one's looking at the side of humanity. How about we're on the side of humanity, everybody? We're just as concerned with the people inflicting the damage as we are the people receiving the damage. Because the point is, we shouldn't be doing it at all. Mother Earth is far larger and has larger amounts of space that we don't have to see little children go through that. Unless you're doing it on purpose. Unless you want to see it. And that'll be up to those leaders in charge. Because there's no such thing as collateral damage. That's just a word. Human lives were lost. Little brothers were lost. Dads were not going to come home anymore. Moms are gone. And that's totally opposite of what that dude's saying. He's straight up white supremacist, trying to force a white supremacist narrative down your throat. There's no little Gazas. But if I was a law enforcement individual and I respected that politician, then I would take him word for word, and I'm not going to go in there trying to make peace with individuals, with kids who are crying, saying, hey, all we want to do is just stop the violence. And then they get smashed in the head by a law enforcement officer because this is a little Gaza. These are terrorist sympathizers. Terrorist sympathizer. Just say that to yourself. Close your eyes and say, terrorist sympathizer. It doesn't even make sense. No one sympathizes with terrorists. No one does. I doubt that the people from this region on Mother Tonantzin, the people that are suffering and dying and the children and the women that are getting raped, I doubt they're saying, oh, well, we're sympathizing with these terrorists. I doubt they're saying that. This is not anti-anything. This is stop the human suffering. That's what that is. we have to remember one thing that, the universe is a very chaotic place. And we as humans, we crave comfort and stability. But life is not that way. Even though we experience it, it's not that way. It's kind of like when someone goes, "Oh, your life is probably good because you're rich," and then the kid that's rich is going, "Yeah, my life sucks. My dad doesn't pay attention to me. My mom's never there. I'm fucking alone all the time. I have really bad influences. I do a lot of drugs." It's not that heaven that you think it is.
Yeah.
Guys, 626-596-1033. Call in, join the chat. How do you guys feel about what's going down right now, man?
Yeah, let us know, man. Join in the conversation. But there was one more post that was that I sent you, Armando, on the email, and I thought it was relevant to kind of like put this in perspective, kind of. No, it's not that one. It's
Hold on.
Oh, it's the one.
Sorry, guys. 626-596-1033. Again, 626-596-1033. Call in right now, guys. Tell us how you feel.
So this next post that we're gonna share with you I thought it was interesting.
I don't think you sent it.
No?
I think you only sent this woke one.
Okay. Let me try to send it to you right now. Sorry, guys, but I thought it was really relevant because, we all crave that, like I said, that comfort, that place where we're gonna not suffer, right? We're not gonna what the Catholic Church brought across the world, this heaven understanding, like, whoa, one day you're gonna get to heaven. Don't worry about what's happening here, because one day you're gonna get to heaven. All that stuff is dissolving because we don't want to experience the hell to get to heaven. This is hell. Children going through that type of suffering is not heaven, and no one really needs to suffer like that. But there was this post on Instagram that was, oh, no, that's not it. Damn, what happened? Where's the first one?
Shout out to Word First. He says the same thing is happening in El Salvador. The leader there is inhumanely locking up the indigenous and threatening to hold them without food if the people keep complaining. What I know was going down, if you have any little tattoo
I heard
that's
about
gang
that.
related, dude, you're going
Yeah.
you're going to jail for life. That's like some weird shit.
For life?
Straight up.
Damn. No, I heard about
You
it.
can't even listen to hip hop music.
One of my friends.
That's crazy.
What?
Yeah, bro. Like it's to the point where you can't even listen to like a Tupac song over there because the community will start pointing you out like as a gang member or you're part of fucking MS-13 and then you're just an accusation gets you locked up.
Wow. No, my friend went recently. He's from El Salvador, and he just recently went.
I think my brother called in. I guess he wanted to join in because he's like, yo, I've been out there, I've dealt with Middle Easterns.
Check the email again since you new one.
Okay.
So this next post is about. I read it really briefly, but that was interesting because
You said the same one. This one?
It's about like.
In the same one.
No, it's not that one. Sorry, guys.
Again, 626-596-1033. Call in. Let your voices be heard. Make sure you guys follow us on Instagram, LA Natives Podcast, Zero El Vu, Refined Cactus, hip hop blogger. Just getting Zero to get dialed in with this link that we got.
Okay, there we go. I think it popped up on my email. So
I haven't gotten in yet.
no. Anyways, I guess maybe I could just talk about it. But it said it's end. Unless I'm.
Here we go.
You got it?
Let's get it dialed in.
There it is. So this post starts talking about like if the Spaniards had never came, or if we would have won the Spaniards, right? And a lot of people, we get educated with the fact that we got conquered, right? We were a conquered people. And the truth is that we knew the Tlatoani of the time, which was Montezuma, he already knew his sages and his wise men already told him that you're going to see a vision, and that would mark the end of our period. You know, we would go into a dark period of time. So this post is kind of a contrast of like,
what if Columbus failed?
right, what if he failed? Right? And I thought that was an interesting concept, like heaven. That's kind of like the same concept of heaven. Like, wow, we beat him. That we didn't have to go through what we went through. But you know what? You don't create the Tonal Mashiach, or you don't create the systems of math, science, religion. I mean, not religion, but math, science, spirituality, by not going through dark periods. Mm-hmm. Dark periods are inevitable. Death is inevitable. You will one day die. I will one day die. So, as a society, there would never be a time, at least in the reality that we're living now and creating the people that we are now, where the Spaniard doesn't, where the Spaniard doesn't fail. You know what I mean? There'll never be that time, because we knew and studied and observed time so long that there was nothing that anyone can do.
This is a crazy post right here.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting. I thought it was super interesting. Like, to have that perspective. But then it's still really tied into like a Christian kind of outlook. You know what I mean? Like,
yo, the homie word first says he did fail because we are still here and we are going nowhere.
Absolutely. In a different way, though, in a way that didn't have to require us to, not go through a time that was uncertain. You got to remember, when you plant a seed, you're planting it underneath the ground. It's dark. That seed has to find water, break the shell, struggle out of the earth to pop out and receive the sun. Then this concept wouldn't even be real. I don't believe that our ancestors even believed that type of thing. We did have the skills to defeat them. We did have the bravery, the strategy. We were very intelligent people, but we were we knew that when the elders said things were going to happen, they pretty much happened. Because that's how long we've observed time, nature, animals, cycles. Our calendar is 26,000 years documentation. So out of those 26,000 years, we're not going to figure out a time where there's going to be dark period.
Right?
Yeah. Right?
Yo, I think we got a caller.
Right on.
Yo.
Yo, if anybody gets us confused, this is Convoy. I got love for Zero. I got love for the podcast. I agree with everything you're saying, Zero, on this topic over there in the Middle East. But I would love to give a perspective of somebody who's been over there.
Who? Yes.
I actually, I spent a year and a half of my life over there. And it's a tough topic to touch on as somebody who takes pride in serving. And I took pride in serving with a group of Marines, and I took pride in serving for this country. But I have no shame in talking about what I personally saw out there, and the horrors I saw over there, and it's just another cycle replaying, Zero. Hopefully, you could, give me some context on your end about what I'm about to say.
Right.
But as a person who respects the culture over there, I respect the people over there. These are all human beings, and these are all beautiful people. I never personally went to Gaza or Palestine, but I had my fair share in the Middle East and in Iraq, in a particular area of Iraq. The traditions are not so different. I dealt with Shiite and Sunni populations. And I look back at it 20 years later, and a lot of combat vets and a lot of military might not like what I'm about to say. But I don't agree when people call the Palestinian Hamas people or that type of organization terrorists. As much as somebody might want to convince me that they're terrorists, I feel like they're getting revenge. The reason why I know they're getting revenge is, what do you think, Zero, happened to the kids in Iraq? What do you think happened to them? How do you think they felt?
Right.
When a group of Americans randomly just knock on your door and we're just forcefully walking in there, and most of the times we're detaining any male figure. If you're a teenage male, you're going on the truck. We're putting a sandbag over their heads so they don't know where we're taking them. We're taking the father, we're taking the brother, we're taking any male person in there. Now this house is left with just women and children by themselves. Now, who do you think those children ended up becoming 20 years later?
The rebels. The people that
they didn't become terrorists. They didn't become, bad people. I can't say they became ISIS, but I could probably assume, out of my experience and what I've witnessed out there and what I dealt with, I don't blame none of the kids out there that ended up turning into ISIS and trying to get revenge in any way possible.
Right.
Now, that has a lot to do with Hamas and Israel. What Hamas did was was a barbaric act on top of Israel doing barbaric acts. But as much as Israel is going to be killing every father, every brother, and massacring these kids that we see all over the internet, all over social media, they're molding these young kids to get revenge 10 years later from today, 20 years later from today. So the cycle is never going to end. And hopefully, you could have your 2 cents on that, Zero, because you're talking to somebody. I'm a decorated war veteran. As much as my brother wants to just introduce me as his brother, I am a decorated war veteran. I've had my fair share of interacting with in the Middle East, and it's a beautiful area. I got nobody should have any sort of judgment on any sort of particular tradition, religion, or culture.
Right.
It's just if you come in at something with mutual respect, then your opinion is different.
Mm-hmm.
I respect the culture out there. I respect their traditions, but they just don't like it when outsiders try to intrude.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's going on. And I see a correlation of a never-ending cycle
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
of kids being groomed by their own enemies.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine if you're a 4 or 5 year old little boy right now,
mm-hmm.
and your father just got killed, and your brother just got killed.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you think you're going to feel when you're 20 years old and you're a grown man and you're able to get revenge? And I'm not saying that's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I'm praying that that's not going to happen, but that is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I know for a fact that, it's sad to say, but most of these kids are going to end up being quote unquote labeled terrorists later when they try to get revenge, which is kind of shameful, and shame on the media for doing that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What do you think? What do you think about my opinion, Zero?
No, I think that one, we have to, thank the Creator that you didn't get swept up with that type of trauma, because that type of trauma sometimes affects people for a long time. Sometimes people don't recover, but you sound right. You sound good. And terrorists and people who defend themselves, like if we were in modern times, right, like right now, and the reservations started going wild and natives started really hurting, the people that lived around those communities, they would be labeled terrorists because it's not falling in line with the system that's designed to control them. That's what this is. They're not. That severe trauma will lead anybody to violence. There's no way around it. I mean, just hearing the story, you feel like, dang, I would do the same thing. And then you have arrogant white supremacist politicians going, these guys are terrorists. Because they slapped them around so much. They, took away their fathers. They traumatized their mothers. They killed their grandmothers. They, psychologically destroyed their little brothers. That's the definition of evil. And it's not I hate blah, blah, blah. It's not that, dude. That's the definition of evil. To traumatize children in that way so that they could grow up 20 years later and hate you so much that they want to risk their lives. And that's why I guess maybe they say anti-Israel or anti-whatever.
Well, 3Pac says the Jews lived in Israel first. Like, who gives a fuck who lived? You guys have to live amongst one another now. Like, it's only obvious. Who gives a fuck who was living there first at this point?
Yeah, like,
is that really relevant, Zero?
No, because
did the Jews live there first?
I always go back to that Wu-Tang or RZA line where he's, he quotes the mileage of the earth, like how much land is on this earth. And with the number that he kicked out, I was like, of course, some of it's inhabitable, some of it's, difficult to live in, but, our ancestors lived in deserts. They lived in jungles. I mean, the human creativity will adapt to whatever. And there's so much space. But when I pull back the layer of onion with this particular situation in this region, I think of people that are doing things that are very, very evil. To traumatize children is an evil act. To purposely harm people who are unarmed is an evil act. It's a sacrifice, And so when we think of evil, we go, well, but they don't have no horns and they don't have no big nails and they're not scaly and green and they don't have fangs, so they're not demons. They're humans that are acting bad. But that's the way a demon would act. It would do exactly the same things that they're doing there, right? And so if this evil exists there, and they're supposedly in the holiest place on earth, bringing that evil on top of that holiest place on earth, right? And then blame it on the terrorists that it's all destroyed. And then what will be built on top of it?
Right. So Victor, when you were over there in Ramadi killing Middle Easterns, who were the terrorists?
Well, first of all, let me correct you, Armando. I know you're looking at this like a joke, and I know you didn't mean that. I never killed anybody. I was a medic for the Marine Corps. I was there, so I was a corpsman. Just to let you guys know what a corpsman is. I'm a first responder, I did not only treat Marines. I treated well over as much civilians as I did Marines out there. So,
that's cool. Good to know.
I've been in situations where, there's a bomb that explodes in the middle of the night. Usually when that happens, it's usually like a dude who's like trying to bury a bomb on the side of the road, and it accidentally ignites on itself, and he kills himself accidentally with his kids next to him.
What?
And usually this is a father getting paid to do this because he has no job, and the insurgents are paying these random people just some extra money to do some of their dirty work. So they don't get killed, but the innocent do. Wow. So usually that type of scenario, when we go out to the scene, the older gentleman or the father figure or the person putting the bomb is usually dead already. But guess guess what we're seeing? We're seeing a triage situation with multiple kids, and usually women and children who just happen to be there because they just happen to be in the car. And now I got to treat them. Wow. So, obviously I can't blame us for being there, or, I blame this person for putting the bomb there. But I look at the whole aspect of, there's some things that I'm proud of and there's some things that I'm not. And a lot of combat veterans, veterans, they don't like talking about what they're not proud of. Right. It's because they don't want to disclose it.
Right.
But I remember I used to always question, like, hey, what's in these trucks? Why are we transporting, 7 tons? We have 20 diesel trucks going from one city to another. Mm. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I used to always ask questions because I was a young man. First of all, I was a teenager, and then I was a young man over there. So at first I was a teenager over there. I was 19.
You were 19. You were 19 in the Middle East. Wow.
Yeah. I turned 19 years old in Ramadi.
Wow.
So, and by that time, I was already a fully trained combat medic for the Marine Corps, patrolling the streets in Iraq, walking every day amongst the people. Mm. So when you're an infantry member in the military, there's pros and cons to that. The pro is that you can actually experience the culture over there. Mm. And soon to find out, my judgment was going over there and saying, nah, you know what? I just can't wait to get it in. I can't wait to find these terrorists, the quote unquote terrorists, or back in the days, the weapons of mass destruction that they convinced all of us that were over there. I never saw one. Wow. We go over there and we have this perception and this judgment. But once you're actually out there and you deal with the people in person, and the way these Iraqis interacted with me was different than my actual Marines, because they knew I was a medic. Mm-hmm. So, when we go in a house, they're scared to talk to these guys because they're scared shitless. Mm. And they don't know who I am. They assume I'm a Marine also. Mm. But then they see the medical insignia on my chest, and they already know that I'm some sort of comfort factor in that house. Mm. And that's what I liked about being over there. Because you know what? If I could make a kid feel a little bit more comfortable, I'll walk out of there happy.
Right.
because I'm not putting a gun in their face, or I'm not detaining their brother, or I'm not questioning their father. I'm right there playing with the kids, you know, having them play with my stethoscope, showing them what's in my medical bag, you know. That was my experience over there. I personally never shot anybody. I never shot a weapon in my life.
Wow.
Even though I'm a combat veteran with 2 Purple Hearts. You know, the way I got wounded is I was just treating some of my Marines and I got hit.
Wow.
And that's a whole nother topic. But, you know, what's going on right now, I kind of feel like it's a never-ending cycle. Because I really compared it to the parallel of ISIS. Like, ISIS didn't exist 20 years ago. But coincidentally, they exist now. As a terrorist organization. I just feel like they're just a group of kids who got together and say, fuck this, we're going to get revenge. And excuse my language on your podcast, Zero.
No, it's all good. No, we cuss on it or whatever. But
yeah. But, you know, I don't want nobody to think that I ever killed anybody. And I know a lot of people, you know, bite their lip talking to a veteran who's been out there. But I kind of feel like more veterans need to get their opinions out there who've been there.
Right.
Because it's easy for us to watch the news and see the videos. And believe me, they're going to show us all the negatives. You know, but nobody shows anything good out there.
Right.
You know, and there are good workers. There's humanitarian missions going on right now. There's people from all over, from different countries, actually not just talking and protesting. They're actually flying out there trying to help.
Right.
And so they're not alone. And that's the frustration that a lot of these protesters, and that's what these protesters are trying to display. That, you know, I think the whole world, and nobody's pro-Palestine. Nobody's pro-Israel. Like you said, Zero, in the beginning.
Right.
They're pro-human beings, man.
Right. It's a natural reaction for us to react in that way. After we, you know, we were educated that type of violence would never exist on this earth again.
Where were you, Zero, when, because I you know, the whole pretext of Iraq was, I think, 9/11, right? Like the whole narrative, Bush was president, right? So these planes hit the fucking towers.
Right.
Where were you when that happened? Do you remember were you concerned? Were you like, oh, we should get these motherfuckers? Like, was there some sort of fake patriotism going down? Because that was like running rapid all across the nation, like some patriotism going down, right? You were a little bit too young, Sky, I believe, when 9/11 happened. But I was a freshman in high school. I vividly remember.
Right.
No, I was a senior in high school. I'm sorry.
I think I was living in the Bay Area at the time, and I remember. I think someone called me and said, "Oh, turn on the news," and I was just confused. I was like, "What's happening? Like, what's going on?" But then the aftermath of it.
Right, because I know you peeled back the layers. Because at that time you were really revolutionary with your music. Like you were predicting all this shit, dude, in your projects.
Well, I mean, like I said, we used to read William Cooper in '94. So, you know, 9/11 was, you know, way out. You know, '94 when we were reading William Cooper, that's Behold the Pale Horse. He was talking about all this stuff. That's like, you know, Bush being the head of CIA and then becoming the vice president and then eventually the president, then his son became president. So this all has an agenda to it, right?
And his grandfather was like some sort of big ass.
The one thing I noticed about it though was a lot of what William Cooper talked about came true, but there were bumps in the road. It wasn't like a smooth sailing because I've been studying it for so long and seeing it evolve, you know, in real time, that there's been certain bumps in the road that the book predicted would be smooth, and it wasn't smooth. Like there was, you know, public opinion stopped things from happening, and you know, it wasn't like a plan that was not going to have any problems, you know, achieving its goal. But I think humanity's coming to a point where you can't just dictate violence to humanity anymore. Because, you know, people are going to stand up and get frustrated and figure out ways. I just wish they would be more creative about what they're doing, because I'm not playing devil's advocate here, but I'm saying, how effective is those things happen? What effect is happening, or what is the result of those things other than people just having opinions about what you're doing? Like, they just don't agree with what you're doing, or they don't agree that, you know, they're calling you anti, you know, countries.
Look, I'm just
and
thankful.
people and religion.
I'm just thankful my brother came out of there alive. He did a lot for this country. He won 2005 Sailor of the Year. He was like the MVP of the Navy.
And that's
proud of
cool.
him.
Yeah, and you know, he risked his life, you know, being a medic, you know, without carrying a gun,
Right.
and you know, I never really, I knew your brother's a veteran, but I never liked to talk to people unless they talk to me about it. You know what I mean? Because it could be a sensitive area, you know. And forcing young kids at 19 years old, man, whoever's 19 out there in Las Taslan, man, please go through your life naturally and don't make decisions that. And I'm not judging your brother. I'm just saying that sometimes they trick us into these places, and then we have to face the consequences and the traumas that come with that. You know, who wants to be in that position at that age, having to do those type of things to people? Walk in their house forcefully, treat someone who has just gotten shot or blown up. I mean, those are traumatic. And we go, well, we're going to go fight these bad guys, right? When there's an agenda put in play 10, 15 years ago, you know, but.
Well, like when the Twin Towers happened, like when your kids were asking you, well, who did that? Were you telling them all bad guys? Like, were you stuck in that little narrative, or you just saw right through it? You're like, man, this is some sort of fucking weird shit going down. Because they real quick were turning war, right? Like,
wow,
let's blame the Arabs. Let's blame Saddam Hussein. Weapons of mass destruction.
I definitely, when I started seeing
the war machine, right?
You know, at the time, I think I owned my business, and I was flying back and forth, and I think that's when I felt weird that we had to go through a metal detector, and they had to X-ray every goddamn thing, and you know, I wasn't used to traveling in that way. Now we're used to it, right? But see how the agenda unfolds very slowly, right? First, they have to create 9/11 and put up the fucking security, everything, you know? Because those people that are checking your bags at the airport can arrest you, right? They can detain you, and they can go. They're pretty much cops, you know? And they're not only looking for, you know, terror. At first it was like, oh, it's the terrorists. Now they're looking in your bag just because they want to. It kind of reminds me of El Salvador, right? Where it's like, oh yeah, we need to stop these very violent people from doing things. But now you can't even have a tattoo or smoke a joint or listen to a song. So you're giving up your freedom for comfort. But the comfort of someone else's narrative and what they're going to dictate to you. It's kind of like what happened to your bro. You know? You get swept up and fed a narrative, and you believe that narrative, and then you're going to go out there and then get traumatized and come. And thank God that you get to come back, because some people come back with no leg or severely PTSD or depressed, whatever the situation is, but going into combat zones. And man, when we used to hear the stories of Iraq, we thought it was bad, but these stories that are coming out of that region right now in real time, this is why the planet is acting the way it's acting. You can't do that to humanity and not expect Mother Earth to react. I don't know if people know this, but the Earth, from what I hear, sends a pulse of energy into the air 3 miles high. In that energy, there's information. That information is affecting all of us. This is what the elites don't understand. You can't control the energy of our Earth. It goes 3 miles high. The energy, that pulsates from our earth goes 3 miles high into the air.
And Christopher Martinez says it's all for control. Some human beings just want full control. The more they make you fear, the more they have control.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why they want the smart cities. That's why they want to shove everybody into the cities, get them out of the ability to take care of themselves.
Well, they're trying to take away self-sustainability, essentially.
But, I mean, that's their agenda. It doesn't mean when you sit down at a meeting and someone pulls out an agenda, you kind of want to talk about these topics, but sometimes those topics, you know, at the end of the meeting, you're like, oh, well, we didn't talk about this and we didn't talk about that. It's the same thing. They have an agenda. Agenda doesn't mean that it's a locked, foolproof plan, that they're the all-seeing, all-knowing individual that gets to. No, they look at data and they kind of treat us like cattle, right? So we just got to that's what the way they perceive us. Doesn't mean that that's what we are unless you act that way, unless you fall in line and you don't question anything and you follow the narrative and you say, no, that's okay. I'm going to follow you and that's okay. We're going to blow up kids and we're going to traumatize kids and that's okay. And your eyes are closed. I don't know. It's just not that time anymore. I think the energy and the frequency that's coming from Earth is saying different things. And it's not a woke movement. It's just people really kind of not believing that there's such a thing as a terrorist sympathizer. I don't think anybody with sympathy would side with anybody who's harming someone else. Oh, I'm going to sympathize with that guy.
So, Victor, are all these students at the colleges that are protesting, are they terrorist sympathizers?
Does that make sense? For someone who actually dealt with terrorists, Victor, does that make sense, that statement, terrorist sympathizer? Hello? Are you still there?
No, you probably stepped out.
Okay. I don't know. I would love to hear, Victor, call back. I want to hear your perspective on that because I don't know if that makes sense. He's talking about individuals that were traumatized at 5 years old who became of age to hold something that can actually defend himself against the people that terrorized his life. And then they call him a terrorist. And then you go, well, he's just defending himself. Oh, well, you're a sympathizer to that guy. Right? What else did that politician say? He said they were scum of the earth, right?
Yeah.
Like they get to insult us with these insults of like, you're the scum of the earth, right? A scum of the earth, right? A scum of the earth.
Hello, are you guys there?
Yeah. What's up, Vic?
Hello, yeah. To answer your question, Zero, to answer your question, if I feel like they're terrorist sympathizers, that's something the media, shame for the media for portraying this narrative. But I kind of feel like every student that's either pro-Palestine or even, pro-Israel, as shocking as that might sound, they're just pro-human. And to answer your question specifically for the pro-Palestinian protesters, they're human sympathizers. They're not terrorist sympathizers because not everybody in Palestine is a freaking terrorist.
Right. But does that statement make sense? Does that make sense? That statement, I'm going to sympathize with this individual who goes and hurts other people. That doesn't make sense to me. Like if I'm an intellectual individual, that's
not normal. That's not normal human behavior. So they're trying to, what I feel like what the media is doing, they're trying to brainwash every single person to either go right or left. And they're totally negating the fact that, these are real human lives that are changing, and their lives are changed forever. And most of these kids have nowhere to go. Most of these teenagers have nowhere to go because their brothers and their fathers are fighting for their country, or for what they have left. And the mutual respect is not there. So if we all want to protest and wish for Israel and Palestinians to get along, it's never going to happen due to historical situations that have happened way beyond what happened October 11th or something. October 11th, what happened on October wasn't the first thing ever that ever happened. You know? It was a retaliatory attack for something that Israel did, and then it got blown out of proportion. Attacks amongst each other happens every day over there. It just doesn't get spread out on the news like the way October 11th did. October 11th was exactly the route that 9/11 took, the narrative. Right, Zero? I don't know. I don't want to assume that.
No, you're completely correct, because I think there was a quote from Netanyahu that said that October 11 was their 9/11. You know.
Yeah. That would get the whole world mad, especially with a world leader saying that. Way to villainize this population, this group of people. 99% of the people, when you should villainize 1% of the Palestinians that are actually killing people. And you don't need a religion, you don't need an older brother or mother to convince you that killing is wrong. First of all, we all know that. From indigenous people to Mormons to Muslims to every rightfully respectable religion or tradition out there. Nobody needs to teach us that. We all know that. So nobody's sympathizing over a murderer or a killer on both sides.
Exactly. Doesn't make sense. That's the stupidest statement ever.
Yeah, and both sides are, and we're all, the media is trying to have us focus on both sides, on the bad thing both sides are doing, but amongst the people, none of them want a war. It's the government and the decision makers that do this.
100%.
You know, there's 19, 20-year-old Israeli soldiers that are forced to join the military out there.
Yeah, there's
interviewing.
It's like a mandatory thing. Like if you're born there, you have to go to the military for what, 2 years, something like that.
There's a reason why they don't interview them. You know, their stories are nowhere to be found. You know, and these are infantry stories. You know, ground troops, ground pounders, and there's nothing wrong in going inside a country trying to get rid of a terrorist. There's nothing wrong with that. But you know, you do cross the line when you just label everybody a terrorist, and then you convince the whole population that everybody's terrorists from this particular country. If you live in Palestine, you're a terrorist.
Wow.
That's hard to believe, especially, you know, and it's quite shocking that, you know, and it might shock people that I'm a combat veteran. I'm proud that I served. I'm proud that I served with a great group of Marines, you know, young men, but you know, that has nothing to do with what's going on over there. Like, you know, and this whole stigma of like, well, you know, all these protesters, you know, what I hear a lot from like other Americans or, you know, some right thinking people that I know, they always tell me this, Zero. Well, why don't we take these protesters and give them a one-way ticket and fly them to Palestine and see what happens?
Wow.
That's another excuse. I think that's more wrong when people say that. They're like, look.
You know what? The person that said that, why don't they go to Palestine and look at what actually is happening? Because they think they're informed about what's happening, right? So they have enough ego to say, let's take all these whippersnappers and take them to Palestine and let them see for real. And I bet you that if he goes with them and he gets off the plane with them and he sees what's going on, he won't have the same opinion.
Yeah. You know, and I know what's going to happen. And unfortunately, I'm going to tell you guys the honest truth off of my personal experience out there. Anybody who goes to Palestine or any sort of Middle Eastern country, if you're not Muslim, it's not going to work out for you over there. If you're not Shiite or Sunni, it's not going to work out over there. But that doesn't give somebody the right, when people know that doesn't give somebody the right to just like villainize these protesters and be like, you know what? Let's take these freaking left-wing protesters and let's just ship them out to Palestine and let's have them help them out, see how it works out.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, these people that have these judgments, they form these opinions, but because of the wrong information.
Right. Because as soon as they get off the plane and they see a tiny 5-year-old in pieces, I don't know how anybody's going to go like, yeah, all right, cool. They got, unfortunately this person, this little baby or child was collateral damage. That's why we can't fall for those words, collateral damage, all those things like that. They're words to distract you from the actual definition of what's happening, which is the murder of innocent people. That's why war is on its way out. But I say that with a grain of salt because it's not overnight. And we have to do the work that we need to do as humans to stop this type of violence. The violence against children is probably the worst violence that any culture or any people can suffer. I know because deep in my soul, you gotta remember the colonization and what Palestine is suffering, we've gone through for 500 years. It was our dark time. We talked about it earlier, but that's okay. It lives in us. It reminds us that that's not the right way. Even when it's just an opinion, it's not the right way. To have the arrogance to say, let's show them how much, let's see if they're really down to help people who are suffering. From what I hear, those individuals that live in that region are being starved to death, being bombarded with bombs, being shot at. That's a terror that I wish upon no one. So when you have that type of opinion, and you go, I'm just gonna ignore the reality of what the severity of bombing and murdering and raping, because there's rape. Come on, let's not keep that word out of there. When we tell,
I've seen my fair share. I've seen my fair share of little white kids and Asian kids and African or black kids out there, and I'm thinking to myself, how do these kids got raised here? And then I'm like, oh, these are the Desert Storm guys who had sex with Middle Eastern women. Oh, okay. Now it makes sense.
That is crazy.
I remember patrolling one day and I saw a redheaded little white kid, and I'm like, oh my God, does this kid speak English? And I walked up to him like, hey, how you doing? And then he just looked at me like I was just a complete stranger.
Wow.
But getting back to the protest, with the Palestinian protest, I encourage, if anybody listening to me, that's protesting, keep protesting. Keep expressing your voice and your opinions, because, if we live in this free country where we have freedom of speech, that's what we're trying to take advantage of. And you know what? The government and the media is trying to silence the pro-Palestinian protesters. Nothing against the pro-Israel protesters. I'm focused on the Palestinian protesters. Okay?
Yeah.
Keep protesting. Keep speaking your voice. Make it loud and clear. And if you need to do it a bit aggressively, do it a bit aggressively. Because you know what? I know guys personally who never had a chance to come back and protest. They served this country. They went out there and never had a chance to come back.
Wow.
And speak their mind and their opinions about stuff. Mm-hmm. And I'm speaking facts, guys.
Yeah. No, and that's yeah, it's coming from somebody who actually went out there and during that time in that era had to go through something similar that people are seeing on social media now. Yeah,
and the only good side, there's many good sides about the service and the military service that I experienced. And when you're out there and you're relying on a white dude, a black dude, an Asian dude to have your back, there's no racism and there's no judgment involved. The camaraderie
His call drop.
Wow. Yeah.
Well,
Get him back on.
What a crazy story, right?
Crazy.
That he was walking down the street, saw a white kid,
That's insane.
and was like, he thought he was a person that spoke English, and the kid was the remnants of.
Are you guys there? Hello?
What's up, Vic?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so Zero, are you there?
Yeah, I'm right here. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. I don't know where I got cut off at, but I just want to say this, man. Keep protesting. Don't be silent, because as far as I'm concerned, I'm looking at a picture of 30 Marines who never came back home.
Yeah.
And they died for the right for us to protest and for us to speak our mind. And if you don't agree on something, speak on your mind, because the people who don't change shit don't say shit.
Mm.
And the protests are working. If anybody's caught up in their current events, it's not a coincidence that these protests are working. Because as far as I'm concerned, today or yesterday, the U.S. just blocked a lot of aid to Israel because of what they're doing.
Mm. Well, they have
So
to at that point,
Hey, at this point, the protests are working.
Right. No.
And
I think people aren't accepting just those are the bad guys. Period. No, they want to know the facts on why they're the bad guys, and you pointed out a lot of things with your experience out there on why they became the bad guys. It wasn't just because. It wasn't just someone handed them a pamphlet and they decided to follow this very difficult path. No, they were traumatized when they were 4 years old, 5 years old. They saw their dad get humiliated.
Yeah, and me being a combat vet and a prior military, I'm not a robot. People assume that we're brainwashed soldiers, that we go over there and do shit for the government. Dude, we're your brother, we're your cousin, we're your neighbor, we're the homies that you guys grew up with, and we just happen to join the military to get some money, get some education, and that's it. And I talk and nothing against anybody's. Me talking about my experience is based off my area of operation. Now, I don't know what happened in other areas of Iraq or the Middle East because I wasn't there. I'm just speaking of what I experienced. And I never saw, to be honest with you, we never passed out books or education materials. We never paved the roads out there. We never won the hearts and minds. That was our mission, to win the hearts and minds, Zero.
Really? Wow, that's a unique way of doing it. Let me fucking barge in your house and scare the shit out of your family.
Yeah. Right?
And
we don't even knock on the doors. We just barge in their house, and if any male person is in there, we remove their weapon, and we remove the bolt, and then we actually give the weapon back to the male figure in the house with no bolt. So now they can't even defend their family from an insurgent or a terrorist trying to force them to do something.
Jesus. Wow. That's and that's what you call destabilizing something. That's completely destabilizing something because it can't even defend itself from nothing.
And I don't want to give an excuse saying, "Hey, I was just a medic." No, I was a culprit. I was part of this system. But there's something about supporting the troops. Like that's why I love Immortal Technique. He's one of my favorite MCs. He's all about supporting the troops and the people in the military. He's just against the system. He's against the complex.
The matrix.
Right.
Yeah, the matrix.
Right.
The decision makers. Because most of us are just guys trying to join, make some money, get some money in our pocket, get some benefits, and that's it. But we're not stupid.
Yeah.
But
Well,
there's
they're
a big
making
difference.
They're forcing very young individuals to do very horrific things. They're saying like, oh yeah, coming over here, taking that plane, putting on this uniform. There are no rules for you. You can shoot people. You can, take people and detain them, scare the shit out of them, humiliate them. That's,
Yeah, and I'm not proud of that. I've witnessed that firsthand. I'm not proud of that. I've witnessed, men and
there's
and
two
teenagers,
sides.
quite frankly.
There's two sides to the story, though. I mean, I'm not belittling or judging anybody who had to go through that time of thing, because I think both people get traumatized. Both people get traumatized. One person has to shut off his emotions and know what he's doing has to be questioned or don't feel right about it, but still has to complete the mission, or his life is in danger. He wants to come back home. And so
and Zero, you've known me for well over a decade. I've never not once talked to you about my experience out there, and you've never not once asked me about it. And,
yeah, exactly.
But the reason why I'm calling is because you guys are family, and I will never talk about my situation to anybody. Mm-hmm. I've never brought up what I've been through to you, Zero, until today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always was sensitive to that because I knew that you had went over there, but I know the type of traumas that you come back with or anything like that. And, whenever it's time to talk about those type of things, I always have an opinion. I have I don't look at things directly. You know what I mean? Like, humanity has to go through whatever it has to go through so that we can get through this time.
I came back, a good thing about my situation is I came back appreciating life way more. Mm-hmm. You actually experiencing a third world country, imagine walking the streets and you see ladies making tortillas on stones because the sun is hitting this rock so hot that they could cook on the rock.
Wow. That's crazy. No fire needed.
So, like me experiencing that type of stuff really makes you just appreciate life, no matter what part of industrial complex you're in. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And me experiencing the culture over there, mm-hmm. me respecting the culture. Mm-hmm. And that's the problem I see with Israel. They just have no respect for any sort of Middle Eastern or Muslim background.
Right.
I don't know if you know this law that Israel has. You could anybody who's listening could Google this. As much as I hate Google and believing whatever Google says at this point. Mm. But does anybody know on this podcast that if you happen to be an American and you just want to take a vacation to Saudi Arabia or Kuwait or or Turkey or any sort of Middle Eastern country, mm-hmm. even Dubai, right? Everybody would love to go to Dubai. Dubai is one of the most beautiful places in the world. Mm. If you decide to take a vacation after the fact to Israel, and you want to just explore Israel, Jesus walked and stuff like that, you're not allowed to go to Israel because your visa says that you've been to the Middle East. Mm. So now you're not. Now they're discriminating on somebody who's not even from the Middle East.
Wow. Like you have to go. You have to go from the United States directly to Israel. You can't go to different parts of the Middle East and then go to Israel. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. It's an issue, and I think that's more racist. That law right there. That law right there, I think, is so judgmental and racist, and but I can't judge the whole Israeli population because of that. Who makes the laws out there? Mm-hmm. Right. There's more Jewish people out there in Israel that don't want they don't want this war going on.
Right.
There's more Palestinians out there that don't want this war going on. Mm-hmm. And if people don't want to believe that, you guys are ignorant.
I'm not sure if it's a war. I mean, to have a war, you would have to have another country that has tanks and fucking fighter jets, and this is a population of people who have very pissed off people because they were traumatized when they were young, as you described earlier, that have no other choice but to defend themselves. Immortal Technique talked about it in one of his songs. I forgot what song it was, but he said something about taking up arms just to protect his dignity, against anybody that would come to this land to harm you, right? That's what happens. It's an innate reaction to communities and tribes they'll collectively come together and defend themselves. And then you call them a bad person for doing that, that's an evil person.
Yo, make sure you guys like the video, share the video, add your comments, and subscribe if you're not already. Follow us on Instagram, LA Natives Podcast, 0_advu, Refined Cactus _ and Hip Hop Blogger. Man, our viewership is at an all-time high, Zero. Our chat's lit. Thank you guys again, man. This is like very powerful what we're doing here.
Absolutely. And thank Vic. Vic, thanks for coming, bro, calling and sharing your story with us, bro, because you kind of think you know what people went through over there, or what the situation was like over there, but you don't know until you hear the voice of someone who's been there and had to do and treat people. And I never asked you like, hey, bro, did you ever carry cohete out there and go through were you shooting at people? And I didn't even know you were a medic. You're more of an EMT. And that experience is alone completely different, because you're risking your life and focusing on an individual and trying to keep focus on, and by any, you could blow up, things could blow up, and people can be shooting at you, and you still have to stay laser focused. That's very impressive, Vic. So thank you for sharing your story with our community, man. I think it helps, because no one's judging anyone for doing things when they were young, or even making the decision of going out there and doing things. Life is unpredictable.
And to be honest, if I would have never got wounded, I probably would have still been in the military. I was career driven. I wanted to do 20 years. But I went through some adversity. People who stay in probably never been wounded, and I don't really suffer from PTSD. I don't really suffer from backlashes or backflashes, or I don't really dwell on the past so much. I moved on. As you know, Zero, you know me for almost 15 years, man.
Yeah.
I love life, man. I'm the most positive guy ever. I forgot. Don't even depend on me for CPR.
It's like, call Vic, he's an EMT.
Yeah. That's my past life, but
right.
It comes with a heavy weight on my shoulders, knowing what happened over there. I've witnessed so much stuff to a point where, like, as much as I want to be mad at somebody shooting at my Marine and trying to kill me and trying to kill him, there's always two sides of the story. And you got to respect that. And that's why I got love for you, Zero, because you're all about getting two sides of the story. You've never been to me, you've never been a one-sided dude. You've always had you're all about speaking facts and the truth. And the truth is, there's always two sides of the story, guys. And as much as I want to relate to every single pro-Palestinian protester who's never been over there, I would strongly recommend anybody just going over there and experience the Middle Eastern culture, experience their culture, see what they do, see how they act, see how they treat you. And these are some of the most beautiful people that you ever meet. And, but the insurgents and the terrorists over there who are trying to kill us, they're no different than a gangbanger over here trying to gangbang in their hood and kill somebody over here. So, and
they just have different equipment, different agendas, but ultimately it comes down to protecting yourself, and as best as you can. And that's not sympathizing. That's not sympathizing with the terrorists. That's not that. That's understanding the big picture. Just like I would understand your picture, Vic. Like, a lot of veterans carry a guilt on having to go there and do things that they didn't plan on doing or expect doing, right? And now they have to go through the rest of their life going, luckily you're an individual. Go for it. Go.
I'm grateful that I was there. The only reason why I was grateful that I was there, because I was so confident in my skill level as a frontline medic, as the guy wearing not just holding a rifle, not just holding a 9mm, but I'm carrying a medical bag with a chest tube, with multiple IV bags. I got a pin of morphine. I got a pin of epinephrine. I got a sucking chest wound kit. I got quick clot just in case you get hit by a flame because of a bomb and your leg is burning. I could treat you so I could stop the bleeding. You know, so that's where my head was at.
Yeah.
I actually wanted to see trauma and see patients out there because my confidence level in keeping somebody alive was at the all-time high. And I'm grateful that I was in specific situations and not other corpsmen that I knew that couldn't handle the job. Because there's different type of medics and corpsmen out there. There's the medics who work on the base in the hospitals, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the medics who work on the helicopters, right? They pick up the patients from the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Now, then there's the medics who walk the streets with the Marines.
Mm.
That's a whole nother psychological shit show right there for me.
Wow.
Damn.
You know? So for any medic to go out there and actually your mission is not to kill anybody and not to shoot your weapon, but to blend in and just to be there just in case.
Right.
I'm grateful that I was there because I was able to medevac civilians and Marines and save their lives.
Mm-hmm.
What if I wasn't the medic?
Right.
I would have known. I would have known what would have happened.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just so grateful that I was with a group of people who trusted me and they don't just put a frontline medic out there who's not trained, who doesn't know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to keep that in mind.
Mm-hmm.
So as much as I didn't want to go to war and didn't want to see combat, the training that I did, and when I excelled at the training and the schooling and the triage schools and the medic schools, and, you know, I wanted to make sure I was there,
Mm-hmm.
not only for a Marine, but for a civilian, an innocent civilian that just got caught up in a situation, and I'm able to keep them alive.
Right.
So I'm more of a neutral person out there, and go figure, right? I come back and I start rapping as a non-combatant.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what I was out there. I was a non-combatant.
Wow.
And I wasn't in the Marine Corps. I was in the Navy.
Mm-hmm.
And but other than that, you know, I love anybody who was pro-Palestine, and I love anybody who was pro-Israel. I can't judge them because everybody's proud of who they are. Right. And for this country to make you feel and to make you and for anybody to make you feel like you shouldn't be proud of who you are, that's another technique, I feel like, of mental fucking control. And
right.
Excuse my language.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing your story, Vic. I mean, it's, you know, your opinion is, I'm sure that individuals in our community listening to the podcast, you know, really got a different perspective from someone who had to go over there, you know, because everybody's trying to see, they're trying to figure out what's happening, right? I mean, I'm sure you saw some bad things, but there wasn't that much social media back then, so it didn't have that viral kick to it, you know. But nowadays, there's so many viral videos and videos that have come out from those areas that just make humanity react. And that's, I think, where we're at, man. We're going to react all the time. But thank you for sharing your story, Vic, man.
Thank you, Vic, for calling in.
Keeping it dope.
Again,
100.
Make sure you guys scan this QR code. Support the mixtape. We already have like 3 people who scanned. That's good. Let's see if...
Oh, you can track on that?
Yeah, we could track it. It's right here, right on the screen. It's pretty dope.
Right
So
on.
these are all the new little upgrades that Restream
And it
is
tells
giving
you
us.
who scanned it?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, we're going to start giving away things then.
Yeah.
Easy.
Man, great podcast. Our viewership is here. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. You know,
Yeah,
this is
share
very,
the
very, very
podcast.
important. We're almost at 1,000, guys, but the goal is 1,300.
Yes, 1,300.
Any last words, Zero?
Yeah, you know, this was a interesting podcast, and again, you know, we miss Daniel and his opinions, and hopefully everything's okay over there. I know things are okay. I just, you know, it's just unusual that he usually calls me like, you know, on Monday, you know, for Wednesday. But you know, hope you're okay, Daniel. Give me a text. Everybody out there in Las Taslan. You know, we just recently had plant-based Taslan, which happens the first Sunday of the month, and that was pretty busy. So shout out to everybody who came and supported on Cinco de Mayo, and the boulevard was out of control, man. Like there was nothing but lowriders and Mexican flags on Whittier Boulevard.
Cinco de Mayo.
Yeah, for the Cinco de Mayo celebration. You know, I always like to, you know, just kind of be in that moment where everybody's happy, and that's what it felt like on Whittier Boulevard on that day. I'm not politically celebrating Cinco de Mayo, or do I care about it, but I know that our people are somehow connected to it, and they like to show who they are on that day, and that day was cool. And Plant-Based Taslan was on that day, and we were able to do it together. And that's the goal, is to come to a place where we start to create tribes and communities that understand the climate of the world. The world and the earth and the people that live on earth are speaking now. The people in power don't want to submit to the reality of the shift. And so we're going to work hard towards making that shift in a good way, like our ancestors said, you know, like our elders say. Do it in a good way. Do things in a good way. You know, if you want to voice your opinion, be safe. Be wise. Be creative. And let your voice be known. There's 100 ways of saying the same, you know, this what you feel. You can say it 100 ways. Be creative. Be creative enough to say it 100 ways, 1,000 ways, 10,000 ways, 1,000,000 ways. We have a strong voice. All of us are made from the great mystery that we call the Creator, Ometeo. All that made us. And right now, the earth is going through something that is undeniable, and the suffering of children and the displacement of innocent people, it's not cool. And that's kind of a light way of putting it. But there are people in campuses across the country that are saying it a lot more aggressively and with a lot more passion. And they're not terrorist sympathizers. That does not make sense. They're human rights advocates. They're advocating for children being traumatized. And we all can join in on that, in that journey of making sure that everybody's clear, that every life matters on this planet. That life is so precious that even when we see it being affected thousands of miles away, that we have to say something. Keep strong. Keep wise. Have a good heart. Walk in beauty. We'll see you next Wednesday.